Welcome to this webinar. I am Hjalt, and today I will give you all an exclusive glimpse at our new control that was in development for the last half year, I guess, something like that. So it is the TMS FNC Gantt Chart. Now let's go ahead and check the planning. So I assume actually that everybody knows what a Gantt chart is as you registered for this webinar. But perhaps some of you were so excited about the new webinar and just registered without having any clue of what a Gantt chart is. So I'll start to give a quick explanation on the Gantt chart, and then I'll also give some small details on why and how you use it. And then we'll go over to our own control, the TMS FNC Gantt chart, where I'll show you all of the features that we have implemented and the properties that are available. And as a last thing, I'll have a roadmap that what we will try to add in future releases after the beta and the first release. So what is a Gantt chart? The Gantt chart was actually created by Henry Gantt. So it's named after him. He was the first one to introduce a first chronological chart as a project management in the project management. So that's why it took the name Gantt chart. It visualizes the project tasks in time. So you have the activity shown in time. And most Gantt charts exist of two important components, and it is a list of the tasks in the project, and then also the visualization of the times. So how to use it? So you get an overview of the tasks that we have. These can be divided in multiple tasks, so it's usually for larger projects where you can subdivide tasks in smaller tasks and each give them the duration that you want or expect. Then you can also put in relationships between tasks. You can have them start or end based on other tasks in the project. And then you have a status of the different tasks, which give you an idea of the state of the project in its full at just one glance. But for those, we've added our own mechanisms and properties, which I will highlight later on if we'll talk about on our own TMS FNC Gantt chart. So this is the TMS FNC Gantt chart as you drop it on the form, only a little bit wider. And here you can already see the two different parts. So we have the task list on the left. For this, we've used the tree view example behavior, where you can collapse and expand your tasks if there are subtasks created in them. And what we've also taken from the tree view behavior is the different columns that are shown, which can be set via a collection of columns where you can use predefined values like WBS, name, start date, end date, dependencies, what is also progress, and so on, if you set the name of the column to that type. But you can also use custom information where you can, with an event, customize the text that is shown. Another thing that you can set in the task list options are the date formatting. And if you want to show it or not. For example, you might not need the task list and only show the timeline of the Gantt chart, and then you can select hide the task list as well. As I already mentioned, then you have the timeline on the right. There we have the functionality of a dual tier timeline. So on the top, you've got a group where you can show larger subdivisions of dates. Like for here, in this instance, it's weeks. But you also have the days. And for this, you can set it to the lowest thing. The subdivision is hours, days, months, hours, days, weeks, months, or even years. So that's the timeline where you can also set inactive time, but this is done here in the project that I'll explain later. So it's just a visualization of when tasks should start and should end. And I set two components, but to make it a little bit more user-friendly, we already added a splitter between those two to have it out of the box, more user-friendly to set the width of both controls. Then another really important part of our FNC components is the customization of the appearance. So here again, you can almost customize it fully to have it blend with your application or the application of the customer. And then a third big part of a Gantt chart is the tasks, and that we've combined into the TMS FNC Gantt project, where you can set the different states that I previously mentioned. So, for example, unscheduled is one that is already used by default, but then you have the scheduled and waiting, review, completed, or in progress, for example. Those are different states. And I've already added some default states like those that I've mentioned, waiting, in progress, and scheduled. So we can see that in the IDE that I will show you at the end of this session. Then you have the different tasks. So this is the most important part. These are all the rows that are defined in here. So if one task has multiple tasks or even one task divided into it, we call it a subtask, and then the other task is the parent task. That's what we use as for terminology in the code, in the classes. So the parent task is the one above it, and then the subtasks are in there. And as last thing in the project, you also have the work time. This is a combination of working hours where you can select when a day in general starts and ends. Then also the work days. So for example, here you can see that on the 9th and 10th of December, it's grayed out. And this is because it's in the weekend. And for example, this company doesn't work in the weekend. And as a last thing that you can add are holidays. For example, the 25th of December can be added as a holiday, as here on Christmas we don't work. So those are things that you can set in work time. For the working hours, this means that you get a better approximation of when a task will end, because we've tried to automate as much of the calculations as possible for you. And this is done in the tasks. So we'll go over the tasks now. So one task is one row. As I mentioned, you have the parent task, and then if you have other tasks in it to divide them, then those are called subtasks. And as you can see, a parent task, there is a parent appearance, default parent appearance that you can use to have all of the parent tasks have their own appearance, so that you know that these are based on the calculation of multiple subtasks. So for example, here the mockups and the slice and code are all part of the design task. But the task has a WBS, which is a work breakdown structure, the work breakdown structure, which means that it is a value based on its parent tasks. So for example, here the slice and code that is selected is 2.2, which means that it is the second task of the second task. So as you can see, scripts is 3.2, so it's the second task of the third task. And so that's how a project is built, and the tasks are built up to have easy access and easy connections between all of the tasks in the larger project. Then, of course, each task can have a default appearance. So you can have your own appearance per task. If there are important tasks or not, you can change that all in those properties. And you have a planned start and duration. This scheduled start and end, and these are the most important tasks within the Gantt chart. So the planned start is when you want to start a task. But if you say, for example, I want to start it here Friday the 8th at 12 o'clock at midnight, that's the planned start that you can set, and you can set it for, let's say, 3 days. But of course, here the working hours are between 8 and 5, so it can't start at midnight exactly. So that's why you have the scheduled start, and that will say, okay, I want to start at 12, but I can't start at 12 because it's not within the working hours. So the scheduled start is the 8th of December at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then it will calculate till the end. So if you said it will be 3 working days, that would mean that it will take until Sunday 5 p.m. To end. But then we have, of course, the weekend in here. So that's when it says, no, it's scheduled to end at Tuesday 5 p.m. because then we have the Friday, Monday, and Tuesday to work on it. So 3 working days. So this is this automation that I said that we've added to it so that you or the customer don't have to think about that and just can use the time that is necessary to work on it. And then you also have the dependencies. As I previously mentioned, these are the relationships between different tasks. So dependencies can be finished to start. Finish to start, but also start to finish. So this means this is the finish to start here. So the task itself will start when the previous one is finished. Then you also have start to start here with the mockups and the slice and code. So it will start at the same time. Only we've added a delay here in the sample data. So the delay in the dependencies means that you can move it forward or backward in time based on when it should start. So this one has a delay of 1 day. So normally it would start with the mockup task, but it's delayed 1 day. And this one here is the page templates and scripts is the finish to finish, so that will end on the same time. These are dependencies, and then the different states I already mentioned with the scheduled, in progress, and so on. So you can set a different state on a different task. On each task, you can set a different state that you've defined previously, and each state has a priority level, which means the importance of the state. So, for example, if you are waiting on a task, or if sometimes some task has huge errors, then you can set the priority level higher to make sure that the parent task will take over the appearance, the state of the most important state. These are all in the project tasks. And then I'll go ahead and show you some code. So there are already a couple of demos available. So first of all, I'll show you the timeline options demo. So this is about the division of the timeline. It will run. So the timeline options that you see here that you can set are also all available in the properties of the Gantt chart. So these are in the timeline options. These are the same settings that you can set here in design time that are available here. So the timeline is the bottom one where you can set the unit. So if you, and the group is the one on top. So we can set this one, for example, to a month. And then you will see the 1st of December, the new month will start. And if we move on until January, oh, where it is. So November and December, and then I have, let me put this one to a week. So here you can see the different weeks, when it starts and so on. You can format them as you wish as well. And you can even increase the span. So 2 will mean that it will show every 2 weeks instead of 1. And as I said, you can take hours, days, months. So here you can see that on the 29th, 30th, those are the first 5 days. Here we have it. So we'll start at 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock, the end of 4. So at 5 o'clock, we'll end the workday. So the working hours are taken into account on an hour base, but on a day base, you can notice that this aren't really visible. But you can see that it starts a little later than at 12 and it ends a little earlier than midnight. So this is the span that you can use. You can set it, the date formatting as you want as well. You can also hide the grouping. And then you have the auto view, which means that it will start 5 days before the first start of the task, and that it will end, that the view will end 5 days at the end of the task. I know I noticed why there was no January, because it's not in here. So you can change this, and you can set the month defined by a start and a view date. So for example, you can start here from today, and then you can set here like even 2024 can be set, and then you have a whole year that you can add. So this is if you want to manually choose when the view starts and ends. The auto view just takes into account the whole project. Another thing that, as I previously mentioned, is the custom, the full appearance settings and so on. So we also have custom drawing. And here in this example, I can set the custom drawing of the group if you have a week. So if you have a good week, then you can also do the custom drawing. For example, here we can just set week and the number of the week of the year that we can add as well. This is for the timeline. The resources are not yet available, as this is also part of a different view that is necessary. So for the moment, only the tasks that are implemented. Resources will be added further on, as will be shown on the roadmap. Of course, there are a lot of data properties and tags available in the on the tasks and project and so on. So you can add your own resources for the moment to handle that calculation and so on for yourself. But for the moment, it's still it's on the roadmap for future versions. As linked to the resources, there's also a complete different resource view, which is not yet created. So this was the timeline demo. The holidays, yeah, I'll show that immediately. Let me go to another demo, the work time demo. So here we can, yeah, also the Gantt component, the database compatibility, so data binding is also not yet implemented, and is also on the roadmap for future versions. Because first we wanted to have the base structure completely solid, as will be of your feedback and so on when you use it, before we start to implement the data binding, so that we won't break anything while we're working on it. So that's why it's not yet in there, because we want to have a good foundation, because a database layer is a complex thing. So if we then need to change things, it would be very hard to implement. So that's why it's not yet implemented for now. So for the working time, the work time, we have the working hours, as I mentioned, the work days, and the holidays. So here you can see we have one from 8 to 5, but if we set it from 8 to 12, we will see that the day is shorter. Then we can also add one. For example, we have a break at noon, and we work from 1 to 5. Then you will see that it will enlarge again because the full day work day is again 7 hours, I guess, 9 to 7 or 8 hours. Yeah. So that's how the working hours work. So they are calculated. But if you want to set the tasks, so you can set the task duration to, here you can see this, the tasks are set to work days. But if you want to set the tasks to hours, minutes, seconds, you can do that as well. And then these will be taken into account. For example, if you start a task at 8 o'clock for 5 hours, then it will work 4 hours until 12 o'clock and then start again for 1 hour at 1 o'clock. So the task will be from 8 till 2 o'clock. That's why we have the working hours added. Then we also have the work days. For example, here you see that we don't use the weekends, but you can say, for example, our weekends are on, we work on a Saturday, but on Monday we are closed. Then it just shifts the dates around until it's calculated as it should. And then the holidays, as you requested. So let's say we have the 25th and the 26th. So we can add here a holiday from the 26th. Let me get 26th. And we don't need to use the time, or we can set the full time, and it's Christmas. Let's call it second Christmas. Then you can see here that it just has gotten to, let's add some other working days so it's longer. So then you can see that the 26th is also gone. And I think the Monday was because of this. So you can also say, let's take it from the Monday and Tuesday as well. So you can choose multiple days, weeks. If you've got a summer break of in your company where the company is closed for 4 weeks, you can also add that as well. If it's just, for example, one afternoon that you are, even an afternoon that you are closed, say from the morning till 12 o'clock, then you can also add it, and then it will use half a day to work with it. So that's all possible with the working hours, the working days. If you, let's say, for example, we'll take no days. Of course, that's not possible to work no days because then no task could be completed. So then we default to everything. But you can also remove all of the working hours, and then it will be taken into account from midnight to midnight as well. I don't know if I missed some questions. Let me check quickly. To block out maintenance or breakdowns, well, you can, how is this done? Then you can add that as a holiday, perhaps, I guess. It's when it's not working, so then the calculation will skip it if it's for something. The name was holidays, but perhaps we can call it exceptions or something like that, where it's down for some time or a day. Perhaps you need to change that name. Yeah. So can I raise a task as the lockout time then? That question I don't really understand. Is it possible to create multiple calendars and assign these to a task? That's something I don't understand as well. Some more information, perhaps in the mail, then we can give full disclosure and help you fully with it. So what if a task has different days available? So normally a task has a start and end date. If there are more, then you need to create more tasks. The video will be available as some might know of the previous session, that I forgot to record it. Now I've clicked recording, so we are recording this session and it will be available. The critical path is also something that will be that is on the planning for future releases. For the moment, you should be able to export it to PDF default with all of our FNC controls. HTML not yet, but we do have the toJSON function in FNC Core, and we've also added the possibility to save it and load it from the CSV. But later on, we will add more functionality, like, for example, to XML or HTML. We'll have to see what people want and what is feasible to implement. Multi-bars be added per task row. That's something that I didn't see in my investigations and research. So if those are there, then let me know and I'll have a look at it, because I don't know. I didn't see those things in the while I was researching the Gantt chart. A separate capacity for each day is not possible, because a Gantt chart is something that is, well, it's not possible at the moment or out of the box, because actually a Gantt chart is used for a general project and not some personal things. So I think we can make that available in the future, but for now it's just the work time is based for every day. Okay, for certain tasks, then there are events for setting tasks, and then you can personally check if those are available or not. Yeah, well, previously mentioned, the resources are for later parts. And on the left part of the note, it's possible to display more information. Yes, those are the columns that I mentioned. Let me show you in the, here it is, in the TMS FNC Gantt chart. No, it's in the task list options. The task list options, you have the different columns, the date formatting for the start and end date, and if the columns are sizable. That's also something that we've added. So here we have the 6 columns that are visible. So the WBS, that is here, then the task name, start date, duration, end date, and the dependencies. As I mentioned, those are predefined names that can be used. Also progress, the data boolean, which is a property to each task, data integer and data string are predefined that you can use, but you can also add here your own name with and header text. And then in the events of the Gantt chart, you have the onset Gantt list task columns text, and that's where you will get an event for each column, and for each row in that column, an event where you can customize the text that is drawn within the task list. Images are possible inside the taskbars with the bitmap container that is added, where you can then set the task with HTML formatting. Tasks and planners are currently not combined. It's also a product that is standalone, the Gantt chart. So it's not a part of the UI pack. So that will be a separate adapter that will be need to create it. So this was the work time, and then I'll go on with the appearance. So here you can see that we can fully customize everything. So this is the appearance set to a dark style, a little bit based on the planner template that we have on the page and on the UI pack. So here you can see it's all dark. Yeah, so all of the settings which are here in the appearance, let me show you. Also, these tasks here are now set by state. So this one means completed, this one means in review, in progress, and then you can also set the progress on your task. So those are done in the, where we have it here, the application. Yeah, I need to select it, of course. So in the appearance, you have the default item appearance, which can be used. The parent appearance I mentioned is different as it has subtasks in it. Then the line of the dependency is here set to orange, which is by default blue. The header height, the item height, to make everything a little larger. And then we have different options. Those are some important parts as well. So if you want to draw the hover item, in case you are working on an old PC, which is a little slow, it might make some overheat to have the hover item drawn each time. Then draw the parent task. If you don't do it, then you don't see them. And to make it less cluttered, the selection grip is when you can change, move, or size a task. Let me show you that quickly. So for example, here you got the grip where you can make this task longer. You can here move it, or you can even move a full task completely, and then everything will be recalculated to the position that it can have. So this is the interaction with the mouse handling and the tasks. We also have a task editor where you can then easily change the dates and so on of the task if it is possible. For example, we want to have this, what is the mob site, for 4 days. Is it 4 days now? So then you see it moves one up. Here we have the dependency to the files review task, which is a finish to start with zero delay, but we can also add here a 1 day delay. And then you'll see it just moves, but it can't because it's weekend, so it moves till the Monday. So that's possible as well, but I was here with the grip showing, so you can hide those as well or custom draw them differently. Draw the task name or not. And then this one is now true, but it's by default set to false. And then you have the default item appearance that is used because of this one. Use default item appearance, and this is the task appearance that was set for each task. So if you use the default appearance, or you can set the draw by state, and then it will use the different states that are defined in the work time. Draw and schedule task is something that you can hide as well. Show the progress or not. And then, as I said, use default appearance and use parent appearance. This is also the parent appearance that was set, or it will take the appearance of the task. These are the appearance options. And then you also have the different appearance settings for each control in it. So the task list has its own fill and so on. The timeline can be set as you wish. Those are all things that can be set. So this is the appearance. I think I've said everything about this one. And now let me show you some quick example on how to build it programmatically. No, don't have it open. Boom, 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 boom. Sorry, I'll add it here. So for the moment, we are focusing on FMX and VCL. So we'll add also web support later on. And here you can see the code that we use to add tasks. Now this is a little bit cluttered with the datetime and so on, because older versions don't have a lot of date utils functionality as in the newer versions. So you can put this a little shorter if you want to. But here you can see we just take the project and add a task with a name. We'll return that task that you can then use to create subtasks or even dependent tasks, and so on. So that's the code that can be used to create the sample data. And then it's loaded. And here you have an example of an unscheduled task. An unscheduled task is a task that has no start date. So if you then change the date, then it will become a scheduled task and it will have a start date, end date, and duration. Then, as you see here, we also have the CSV and the JSON example to show you the persistence. So we can load it from a previous saved file and also for a CSV file. So these are, for the moment, the ways to persist the data when it's worked on programmatically, or you can write your own code to save it as you wish. So as I mentioned previously, the roadmap. So I've already mentioned the web support. So for the moment, it is VCL and FMX platforms that are supported. And we will be working on the web support to be added as well as soon as possible. Then some different editors. Like I showed you the task editor, but we want to have some more editors available even in design time for you and for the customer to quickly and easily change properties. Then database binding, as previously mentioned, also something that we will try to add once we have a solid foundation of the Gantt chart, how it works, and if everything is built as expected for the customers. And also the resources. Of course, this is something that is not in order, not at all. So it depends on what we are working on. As I already saw, at the critical path is something that we can add as well. That is on the planning, but isn't mentioned here. Recurring tasks, something I might be able, but we'll have to think about how to implement that. But of course, as I already mentioned, your feedback and input is important as well. And that's why we created a beta, which is available for you at the moment. For everybody that is attending this webinar, you can download the current binary trial via this link that is available, that's visible now, and that Bruno just sent in the chat. So you can go ahead and try it out, test, see what works for you or what doesn't work, what you want to add it, and let us know via info@tmssoftware.com. And then we'll try to work on what you want. We listen to the customers. So, and everybody that was attending now can have a little present for the Christmas days and start with it. For all of the ALL-ACCESS users, we'll try to have we'll also have a beta release, but with the full source code then. But this will be coming to you. We'll promise to have it to you before Christmas. But then that will be a full source code beta. And I see that Bruno is still. I don't know if there are any other questions. I see a hot chat box. Were you able to handle the questions, Bruno? Yeah. So if there are any other questions, can you lock a taskbar on a date? Well, you are able. The property locked was added so that when a task, so that the task date and start and duration can't be changed and will be the same. So it is possible to lock them. It's possible to disable the. So you can lock the task. Let me show you here. So if you got a task, it has no tasks. That's. So you're able to lock the task for users so that they can't change it. It's also possible with the interaction property to, where is it? Here. So with the interaction property, you can also enable and disable the move and the sizing of the tasks. You can jump to the selected item so that you don't have to scroll horizontally to the correct date. And here we have in the editor, you can choose to show or not show the lock property and to show the editor or not when double clicked. So you can, there are also events to interfere with that and to pick your own, to set your own editor on it as well, or to set some different, to check some different properties as you want before committing, before setting all of the assigned properties in the editor as well. So that's also available. Can a task take longer than planned? Yes, it can, but that's then something that is that needs to be set in the. You can set then prolong the end time, or it goes overdue and you give it another state. There are two possible ways to work with it. Something that we might add in the future as well is the baseline, when it was meant to start and when it was meant to end, and then you can also see the changes in there. But we have a lot of other features and extensions that we can add, but we want to know that they are requested by you as well. Does it run on 11.3? Well, for the moment, the demo, the beta that you have, the trial for the beta that you have is for Delphi 12 only. But I don't know if we... There it comes. So for the all-access user, you have the indeed the full source code, so then it doesn't matter the version that you have. But this trial is only for Delphi 12. A plan to read existing Microsoft project files? Well, if that is asked frequently, then we can have a look at that as well. Just as is mentioned by Bruno here in the chat and by me, send your questions and your findings to info@tmssoftware.com, and we'll have a look at it, check if it's feasible, check if it's requested a lot, and so on. Well, Fabrizio, that is something that can be added as well, but as for a scheduler, then it's better to use a scheduler, and we have the FNC planner and the VCL planner for a scheduler, so that may be a little more useful than the Gantt chart. So if that's all, I'd like to say thank you, everybody. Another question?
Receive events when a task begins.
Yeah, that's what I just answered for the received task. That I don't know if the planner can do that. If the planner has that, not yet. Yeah, well, that's why it's not actually implemented, because then you have the timer that needs to be triggered and keep and there's a resource that it used that uses a lot of resources to have the timer running, check the start and the end date. But it's something that you can add for yourself. I guess you can go over all of the projects and check if the start time has been passed and the end time has been passed. So that's something that is possible to implement by yourself with the timer and the project control components. So this is, I'll end it with the link here so that everyone who still needs it can see it, but it's also was set in the chat. Thank you all for joining me. I hope it was useful for you, and we are waiting for some feedback of you where we can go on and work out the small issues or work on the features that are requested. So Merry Christmas to you. Have a nice holiday period, and till the next time. Bye.